We're hearing an incredible story from Dolores Cannon, and we'll be back with more in just a moment on Coast to Coast AM. And welcome back to Coast to Coast. So, Dolores, they had a plan, huh?
Okay. One thing I would like to say, one of the reasons the other investigators and other hypnotists are not getting the information I do is because they work in the lighter levels. In my technique, I work in the deepest possible level of trance, which is called the somnambulistic level. At that level, the conscious mind cannot interfere. It is totally out of the picture. The person doesn't remember anything when they awaken.
Okay.
So you can see we can get a lot better information than at the lighter levels of trance.
And how many people in the trance state will tell you this?
Everyone.
What percent? Really? All of them?
Oh, boy. No, that's the beauty of this technique that I've developed is that 90% of the people go into the deep trance, and my main concern is helping them with their problems as a therapist and the counseling and also the physical problems. But during the session, this kind of information comes out. Because what I'm finding now, this is what I'm going to go into, instead of going into a past life, which we used to do,
right.
That's how I began. I always take the person to an appropriate past life to explain their problems. That's what it used to be. You'd go to a past life, not anymore. Now they either go back to God when they were created or they go to when they were on spacecrafts, other planets. It's a whole new thing developing. The only ones who go to past lives anymore that I work with are those who still have karma to be repaid. So I see a whole new trend happening here that the other ones don't see because they don't work like I do.
Okay, now right before the break, you were telling us about how they had a plan to try to fix this.
Yeah, they had to come up with something to save us from ourselves. We're the bad guys in the whole picture. We got to save. We don't even realize what we're doing. They got to save us from ourselves. Okay, now, like I said a few minutes ago, Earth has been stuck in this reincarnation wheel for eons. People. You don't just have one life. You have hundreds and hundreds of lives. And if you've been on Earth for hundreds and hundreds of lifetimes, you're stuck in the reincarnation wheel, going round and around, making the same mistakes again and again, and not knowing how to get off of it. You just come back with the same people, same circumstances, and that's the whole problem. So they knew the people here who were stuck in this cycle were not going to be able to solve the problem because that's where the violence comes from. That's where the wars keep making the same mistakes again and again. So their plan, which I think was brilliant, was let's bring in other souls, pure souls who have never known Earth life, who have never been on Earth before, who have not known the violence and are not stuck in karma. Let's get pure souls coming in. Maybe they can do something to turn the whole cycle around. Are you following me?
And when did they start doing this? Right after
that, about in the 1950s, early 1950s is when it all began. And what they did, they put out a call to the universe. Does anyone want to volunteer and come and help Earth? And they said they had meetings, and I've had many of my clients have gone back, instead of going to past lives, go to when they were having these meetings, and they were discussing it. Who wants to go and help? And they said, I've had them say, I foolishly raised my hand and said I would go.
Not a lot of takers, though, I bet, huh?
Oh, definitely, but that's the problem. When you come into Earth life, you don't remember what you volunteered for. Everything is wiped out when you're born. But that's true of everybody. None of us know our past lives. We don't know why we came. We don't know our association with other people. So it makes it harder. But I asked them one time, would it be easier if we remembered why we came? We remembered what we were here for and our association with other people. They said it wouldn't be a test if you knew the answers. So you have to come in just totally blacked out and start all over again and learn it as you go along. So I had people, instead of going to past lives, like some of them would go back to where they had never left God. They had never left the source. We all began there and went out and wanted to explore and wanted to learn. Some of them didn't. It's so beautiful there, and I can tell you what God is like. I can tell you all of that if you're interested.
Well, we'll get to that.
You want to get to that later then, or what?
Yeah. Now,
what?
I'm curious with these.
Okay, but some of them go back to
Hold
that.
on, can you hear me? I'm curious with the waves of people.
Okay, that's
who
what I'm
came
getting
here
to now.
Are they humans or ETs?
They're humans, but their souls are either ETs or they have never had a body before. They've come direct from God.
All right.
But the ones who were ETs were those who were on spaceships, on planets, other dimensions, and they sent out the call. Because I've had people, while they're under, talking about when they came and what they left they were so happy with. They were happy on the other planets. They were happy when they were with God. And I said, then why did you come to Earth? They said, I heard the call. And this has happened time after time after time with my clients. They say, I heard the call. I knew I had to come. Earth was in trouble. I volunteered. Now, why would this be repeated through hundreds of people if there wasn't something to it?
Now, what are the things they would try to do to help us?
To live among us, to change us by living among us.
Would they get involved politically? I mean, would we know? I mean, would there be one of them living next door to you, for example?
Oh, very likely, because they look just like you.
Okay.
They have no conscious memory of where they came from. So they're not here to corrupt anything. They're not here to cause any problems. We don't want to go on a witch hunt looking for these people, because now there are tens of thousands of them all over the world. They said, finally, we have tipped the scale. We think we can save the earth by the sheer number of these souls that have no karma. They have no reason to, what I want to say, they really didn't have to be here at all. They just came. But that's where the three waves come in. And when I first wrote about this in Keepers of the Garden, that was 20 years ago. Now I get letters because the books are translated all over the world, and they all said, I didn't know that was what it was. I didn't know why I felt the way I do, and now I understand, and I can live with it.
You said the first wave that many of them tried to commit suicide. How come?
Yes, because they didn't like it here. They couldn't adjust. Okay, let me explain now. I don't know when you're going to go into another break here.
Oh, you got time. You got time.
What?
You've got time.
Okay. The three waves that I found. The first wave, that they must be now in their early 50s, their 40s or their early 50s, because the first one I discovered had just turned 30 years old, and that was 20 years ago, and I'm still in touch with him. Now, this wave, when they came in, these are the people, they don't want to be here. They don't like it here. They can't stand the violence. They want to go home, but they don't know where home is. They just know it's not here. They're very gentle people. These are not conspirators. They're not people who want to hurt anyone. They're just here to change by existing, by being here. So they are living among us just as ordinary people, but it's very, very difficult for them because they feel out of place. You can understand why.
Mm-hmm.
Because the ones I've talked to, and this is all over the world, they said they have a good family, they had a good jobs, but they just didn't want to be here. They wanted to go home. And many of them did try to commit suicide, especially in their earlier years, because they just couldn't take it here.
Interesting.
But after I worked with them and they find out why they're here, then they change. And they said, all right, I may not like it here, but I'm going to do my job. This is the first wave of people. And I've run into them now all over the world when I lecture on this. Even in South Africa a few weeks ago, 2 women came up to me afterwards, and they said, now I understand why I felt like this all my life. Now I know what I have to